Hello. Good evening. My name is Tony Cha, and I'm the CFO for a company called Air Liquide in Japan. Hi, Chaoji. How you doing? I recently joined Air Liquide from Walmart Japan as the CFO. And when Pekka asked me to speak about careers in Japan and the opportunities that are available, I really wanted to talk. And part of it is a very selfish reason. And one of it is Air Liquide, like most foreign or global companies in Japan, are continually looking for really good people. And I really do think you're working in one of the better or best countries in terms of market size, third biggest market in Japan, but also career choice, finance. Globally minded finance people are always in demand. And you'll have some options. You have options to work with Roberto in PwC, and just to give a little bit of introduction, I worked at Price Waterhouse, the PW part of PwC 20-something years ago. So that's a great choice as well, and you'll have great experiences as well. But one of the choices you're really going to have is maybe you don't want to work in consulting or audit or professional services. Maybe you want to work in a company that produces products such as Air Liquide. And the reason I wanted to talk about Air Liquide today is most people don't know what they do. But as I introduce, I have a very selfish reason, is that I hope, as I explain the company, you'll have an interest in the company, and hopefully you have an interest in joining the company, because we're always looking, like most companies today, for really good international finance people. So with that, let me take a little bit of time to introduce the company, because there's many companies with similar names. Internationally, there's Air Liquide, there's Air Gas, there's Air Water, so it's very confusing. So let me start with Air Liquide and what we do. Air Liquide is it's coming out a little bit weird, but okay, the format's a little bit off, but Air Liquide is a French company, and it's a very big company actually. It's about 50,000 employees globally, about 2,000 in Japan. This is in euros because it's a French company, but it's 15 billion euros. And recently in Japan, or in the US, we announced an acquisition of a company called Air Gas, Air Liquide buying Air Gas, kind of interesting. And that's about a $5 billion US dollars. So in total, we'll be about 20 billion euros. So a pretty big company. And we're in 80 countries. So most countries where they have production and we're industrial gases, we are present. And we have over 2 million customers and patients, because part of what we sell is the gas that healthcare or patients have to use. So we're very good. We're a very big company. Apologies for the format. So explaining a little bit about what we do, we sell gases for many applications, and some of it is for the healthcare industry for gas. You see industry, which is actually our main business. And one of the things, maybe the easiest one to explain is, I know we have some colleagues from Coca-Cola today. Coca-Cola globally is one of our customers because we sell the carbonation or the gas. We help supply that to Coca-Cola. So it's a little bit difficult to explain, but industrial gases and Coca-Cola carbonation is one, and hospitals gases is another. That was the global part I was talking about. In Japan, how big are we? And when I started interviewing for Air Liquide, I was very surprised to hear how big we are in Japan. Let me see if it goes into, okay, I'm just going to skip to this one. One of the things is, in Japan, I think we may be the oldest or one of the oldest foreign companies in Japan. We were founded in 1907. And at that time, it's a very interesting history. At that time, Japan didn't have very good welding technology. And welding uses a lot of industrial gases, like oxygen and nitrogen, etc. And France at that time was a leading industrial power before World War I. And Japan, as they began to industrialize, they asked the French government to help out in helping Japan develop welding technology. And as a result, they allowed Air Liquide to set up a company in Japan. And as they became bigger, it was one of the few maybe one of the few or one of the only companies in Japan that was allowed to use the name Teikoku in their company name, Teikoku Sanso, which is, if you're Japanese, you know that carries a special meaning, especially back back then. So very long history. Our president today is Japanese, which hasn't been for a while. We're located in Tokyo, and we have 2,000 employees, and this is on a non-consolidated basis, but on a consolidated basis, we're about 130 billion yen, or about 1.3, depending on the exchange rate, 1.3, 1.2 billion dollars. So a very big company in Japan, and as a result, we're always looking for good people. And one of the things that's happening, not just to Air Liquide, but a couple companies that I've worked for, and many global companies in Japan, is that when Japan was the second biggest economy and growing, Japan was, I think, really allowed to operate in Japan, kind of isolated from the rest of the world. We're growing, we're making money, things are okay. But as China overtook and Japan economy started to slow down, I would say most global companies, and maybe it's the same for you as well, they're demanding Japan to integrate more with the global colleagues. For example, Air Liquide in Japan, we had to install global systems last year, global ERP, global networking systems. And as Japan kind of, in a way, becomes from number 2 to number 3, sometimes number 4 in your companies in terms of revenues or profit, they're demanding a lot more that you need to integrate with the global community, the your colleagues throughout the world. And as a result, what's happening is they're asking for more bilingual people, more people that's worked overseas. So the fact that you're here probably means that you have a chance to work at these type of companies. And as companies go through change, people with your skills and mindset are going to be in demand. And Air Liquide, like most companies, we're short of really good global people. Just to give a little bit of more advertisement for Air Liquide Japan, we're pretty big. We're 2,000 people. We have plants and factories and regional sales offices throughout, pretty much all of Japan. We are headquartered in Tokyo. Our region office is in Shanghai. Our headquarters is in Paris. So I was in Shanghai last week, in Paris last month, and it's very important. But we have in finance, we have one person expat from Paris into our finance department. But more importantly, we have 3 Japanese colleagues sent overseas. One in Shanghai, one in Paris, or 2 in Shanghai and 1 in Paris as well. So with these type of global companies, I think you'll have a chance to really have a chance to work overseas if that's what you want. But you have to, like becoming a partner, you have to kind of raise your hand and say, I want this, and work towards that. And if you do, you really have a great chance to do that. Again, selling Air Liquide a little bit, 100 years of business in Japan. I think very few foreign companies, maybe only a handful of companies, can say that they've been working in Japan as a foreign entity for over 100 years. And even though there's been a recession or stagnation for a long time, Air Liquide's done very, very well in Japan. So I think there's a little bit of stability in working for a company like Air Liquide. This is more advertisement. I mean, I'm in finance. This is industrial gas. I understand probably less than 5% of what we really do. But as a finance person, what's really important for me is that our sales are growing. Our profit margins are very high, probably close to operating income margins, probably close to 20%. So out of a $1.2 billion base, our income is very, very strong. So as you choose a company or an industry that you'd like to work for, I think growth is important, because as a company grows, there's more opportunities for everybody that works there. And if you had a choice, you want to work for a company where profits are growing, because again, you have more opportunity for careers or bonuses or other things as well. So. Okay, then I'm getting into areas where I'm really not understanding too much of our company. But okay, that's it for me. How I got here, if I may, the order's a little bit reversed. If I may introduce myself, I was born in Japan, born in Japan, but moved to California at a young age, where I got my education, and I came back to Japan about 20 years ago. So I've been working for global companies in Japan for the last 20 years. And maybe one advice that I if it's worth sharing is that, I would raise your hand and take risks or take chances on new roles, new responsibilities, new companies. I felt like every time I did that, I not only learned a lot, I met more people, your network expanded, and I got promoted as it happened, because with change, there's more opportunities. So that's what I would say as you continue your career. So I think that's it for me. So, and also, as we finish and go through drinks, I'd love to exchange business cards, and if you're interested, please let me know. We're, like most of us here, we're probably continually interviewing. I think I'm interviewing all year, and we're looking for the same type of people. Globally minded, doesn't have to be perfect bilingual, but an open mind to learn is something we look for. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tony. Okay. Does anyone have a question to?
Hey, Chowdhury, I'm glad to see Chowdhury here. Any questions for me?
So I audited companies like Shiseido, TDK, NEC that were all based in the States. And so at KPMG, I got my CPA. And then at KPMG, it was great. I saw a lot of different industries. I saw manufacturing, I saw cosmetics, and I also saw financial services. And so that's where I really got interested in learning more about financial services. And this is when I decided to leave KPMG to go to Merrill Lynch. And so I moved from the States to Tokyo, and I joined the audit group with Merrill Lynch in Japan. And I worked there for a few years. I eventually became the audit manager responsible for global markets businesses. And so this is sales, trading, research, those areas. And so I did that for about 4 or 5 years. And I enjoyed it a lot. And so I then studied for the CFA exam, the Chartered Financial Analyst exam. And I passed that. And that was great. And using that, I then raised my hand and I said, I want to do something else. And so at that time, a couple opportunities came up. One was to work in investment banking. Another one was to work in product control. And then this opportunity came to work with the asset management group. And so I actually became a stock analyst and eventually became a portfolio manager for Japanese stocks. So I did bottom-up stock analysis, visited the companies, talked to economists, talked to research analysts, and it was very interesting. And so I did that for about 4 or 5 years. And then for personal reasons, I had to move back to the States. And this is where I joined Nomura in the States. And then went back into audit. And so this time I was an audit manager for the equities, asset management, and research businesses in New York. Nomura then bought a company called Instinet a few years later. And so I was asked to become the global head of audit for Instinet. And this was based in New York. And this got me back on the international scene. So being global head and Instinet having offices in London, Tokyo, Hong Kong, Singapore, I got to travel again, and it was really interesting. Then for personal reasons, I had to come back to Japan. So I left Instinet and I joined BlackRock. And at BlackRock, I was the head of audit for, and this was a more regional role in Asia. So it was responsible for Japan, Korea, and Taiwan. And then Nomura, this time in Japan, had an opportunity for me, and so they asked me to come back. And this time I have a functional role, and so I'm the global head of audits that relate to legal and compliance globally for Nomura. So as you can see, through my audit experience, I've had the chance to work in New York as well as in Tokyo. I've also had the chance to move outside of audit and then come back into audit. Okay, and then, so I wanted to talk about some benefits of working in an internal audit group for a financial services company. And so for myself, I've always been interested in how a securities firm works. And so through audit, you can see sales, you can see the front office areas, sales, trading, capital markets, investment banking. Then you can see all the middle office areas, and so that's your product control, your operations type areas, and then all the way to the back office, and that's settlements. And so you get to see the entire company within a relatively short period of time. And as an auditor, you're going to be working very closely with management. So if you're going to be raising issues, you're going to have to clear through very senior people within the company. And so you get that exposure to senior management. And also, you'll develop project management skills. So you'll be responsible, if you're leading an audit, you'll be responsible for planning, executing the audit, and doing the reporting. And then as you move up, you'll be managing several audits at the same time. And then if you have a global role like myself now, then you have audits globally that you'll be responsible for. And so if you do these three things well, I've seen people move out. And so auditors have moved out to go into the front office. And I've seen people go into business management, trading desks. I moved out into portfolio management. I've also seen people move out into supporting roles. And so this is, for example, operational risk, finance, ops. And many people just would like to stay within internal audit. And so similar to myself, they get to maybe move to different parts of the world, or they just get promoted within the group. And so I wanted to talk about Nomura now. And so Nomura is a leader in the Japanese securities market. So we're a very diversified company. We've got a retail business, and so if you walk around Japan, you'll see retail offices all across Japan. We've got a very large wholesale business, and so this is global markets as well as investment banking. And then we have asset management, which is primarily Nomura Asset Management. And then we have got a whole series of corporate functions that support these front office areas. And we are global, and so we've got 102 subsidiaries, offices across 30 countries and 4 regions. The audit group is also global, and so our obviously headquarters is in Tokyo. We've got a team in London, as well as in Powai, India, teams in Hong Kong and Singapore, as well as New York. And then the management team. Nomura is quite unique in that we are a Japanese company, but we call ourselves kind of a hybrid because we do have a lot of international people working within the company. So this is a picture of the management team, and so we get together once or twice a year on an offsite. But you can see it's quite a diverse team. We have a matrix reporting structure, so we have audit heads who are responsible for regions, as well as audit heads who are responsible for functions. So I'm responsible for legal and compliance audits globally, so I've got a functional role. And there's other functional heads too who are responsible for, say, global markets or investment banking. And then we have regional heads. And so you can see here we've got Japanese people, American people, Indian, British people, Pakistani and Vietnamese. So it's quite a unique management team that we have. And then this is a picture of the Japan team. And so we have a nice blend of people. We've got people who are career auditors, and these may be people who worked in public accounting or internal audit for another firm and came to Nomura. We also have many experienced professionals who have worked in the business. So we have, for example, the head of our audit for Japan. He used to be the head of risk management for Nomura in Japan. I used to be a portfolio manager. The global head of audit used to be the CFO for Nomura. One of our managers used to be the global head of equity finance. And we've got another person who used to work in investment banking who came into audit too. So that's my presentation. So, any questions? Or?
Do we have any questions for Mike? Good evening, everybody. It's great to be here. Firstly, I'd like to thank Morgan McKinley, Lionel and the team for hosting another great event. I'm privileged to have a few minutes to speak with you and hopefully catch up a little bit more later on in the evening as we have a few drinks between us. In terms of introductions, as was kindly mentioned, I'm getting old, thank you, 20 plus years. I'm a partner in PwC Japan. I have and focus on the financial services sector. So that's asset management, banking, capital markets, insurance. And within that sector, as mentioned, predominantly on the risk and control side I focus on. So a lot of internal audit, a lot of risk and control reviews, especially from a regulatory compliance focus seems to be very topical with the regulators in particular right now. So over the next 5 to 10 minutes, I thought it may be helpful just to introduce myself to you, give you a little bit of understanding of my background and some of the choices I made in terms of joining the profession or a Big Four environment, and a little bit about PwC Japan in particular. I hope that those experiences and some of the observations I have may be of some interest to you and to those considering a move into the profession, and hopefully PwC. So with regards to the first point, I'm not too sure if people have guessed where I'm from based on my accent, but I'm actually Italian by background and grew up and studied in Australia and the US. So I actually started my career in Sydney. I trained as an accountant, and I joined one of the, I guess, mega banks in Australia, Westpac, where I spent most of my time, initially in product control, then followed a stint in doing business analyst, management reporting, and finally doing project management within the financial markets group. I really enjoyed my time in the bank. It was a fantastic experience. I worked with great people. I learned a lot. But the one thing that I discovered about myself is that the daily P&L, the month end, the quarter end, those sorts of cycles, I wasn't enjoying it as much. I much rather enjoyed the challenges and the rewards of doing project type work, where I had the opportunity of working with leading people across the entire enterprise, so technology, risk, legal, as well as the front office, of course. So for me, working collaboratively with a common goal of whatever that project was, regulatory compliance or process improvement, was immensely rewarding. So after around 5-6 years in the bank, I decided to take an opportunity to move into the profession, and was very excited to do so. Clearly, variety was one of the key themes to that, but there were other objectives and other reasons that I wanted to move. First and foremost, though, I have to say, had to be the training and development. In a professional services firm, I think being the business, you're not a cost center. There's a significant amount of investment made to keep you updated in terms of your technical skills, your soft skills, as well as what's going on in the industry, current events, methodologies that we have developed to address certain industry challenges. So that was very much a key part of my decision-making process. Again, variety across institutions. So working with leading institutions on how they address different industry issues. Every project was different. It's definitely not a cookie cutter sort of approach. So you worked with different people. For me, it brought out what I hope was the better things of my personality, and was able to leverage off of the skills and experiences that I had to a lot more degree than if I was doing, the typical daily financial processing. But again, that was a personal choice. As was, at the time when I was a little bit younger, the need to travel. So clearly that was a big decision in terms of moving. The Big Four firm clearly offer opportunities to move around, work with clients internationally, gain a bit more exposure in terms of people, cultures, the way of doing business. And through that exercise, I've pretty much worked in most the key centers, financial centers around the world, and had the opportunity to do some long-term assignments, particularly in Asia, where I enjoy spending most of my time. So Hong Kong and Japan more recently. So I think it's been 12, 13 years in Japan to date. So on that, I would mention PwC Japan. All the things that I've just mentioned, I genuinely believe are available to the people here. So my colleagues, whether more senior, the same level, or more junior in terms of experience, they all have the same opportunities, which is really exciting. There's a lot of young people. It's quite a dynamic environment. It's people who want to challenge themselves, and as I said, like me, people who either want a long-term career path. They can have one in Japan. They don't need to go to Singapore to get a promotion. Or conversely, for those people who want to continue their career in another country, like I did, they're very open to having that opportunity within PwC. So I guess one final point that I'd mention is maybe some of the differentiators between PwC and some of the other Big Four firms in Japan. One thing I would say in terms of, we just celebrated our 10th year, I think the same as Morgan McKinley, correct me if I'm not mistaken, and in Japan. And we are growing, we're expanding our business, we're trying to develop new services, we're hiring a lot more people. I think our plan is to double in size in the next 5 to 6 years, which means we need to hire a lot more talented people to help us achieve our goals. But in terms of differentiator, the other comment I would make is we definitely feel a lot more international. We're not the Japan firm. We are definitely part of the global network. So there's a lot more international people in the office, projects, calls, even management decision making in terms of the senior leadership across the organization is very much a joint decision making process with our Japan leaders as well as our global leaders. So for me, as I said, it continues to be a challenging and exciting time to be with a firm. Every day I'm learning something new, either from my clients, from my peers, my clients. It's an exciting time to be here, and it's an exciting time to be with the firm in Japan. So I think I've spoken maybe over my 5 to 10 minute period, but I'd welcome the opportunity to hear any questions you have, or as mentioned, I'm happy to have a chat a bit later on in the evening, as you wish.
Thank you, Roberto. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, of course.
Very general one.